Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Norma Juarez, and I work in the Alumni Relations Office at UNC. Thank you for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Careers After Graduate School. We are honored to be hosting such an amazing group of alumni professionals from across the United States. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. Number one, this event is being recorded and will be available on demand after the event. And I will share that link in the chat section. Two, I will be sharing the panelists' LinkedIn profiles in the chat section. So if you want to access those, please open the chat section so you can see those. Number three, once we are done with the panelist introductions, I will go off screen and return at the end of the event to provide a closing statement. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. Panelists, can you please introduce yourself by stating your name, title, company, UNC degree, and telling us a little bit about yourself. And Samuel, we'll go ahead and start with you. Samuel, I think you are muted.
I knew it was meant to happen one day. Yes, my name is Samuel Dong Saul. I am currently an assistant professor in graphic design at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And I graduated from educational technology at UNC in 2011. And a little bit about myself is I am a big geek. I still, like, a lot of my research is have to do with digital illustration, video games, and very obscure technologies that have not been explored yet. So that's a little about me.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Mahoney with Complete Professional Development, and I'm owner of a consulting coaching business here in Greeley. And I graduated with my UNC master's degree in December of 05. And that was in the community counseling program, marriage and family emphasis. And I was in higher education, actually worked at UNC for 17 years. And in the last two years, I opened my own business. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Brandon?
Hi, my name is Brandon Torres. I am a math teacher at Greeley West High School. I graduated from UNC in 1999 with a math degree in secondary education. And then I did the summers only master's program in applied statistics and research methods. And then I've been at Greeley West High School as a math teacher for 22 years.
Thank you, Brandon. Adriana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana Ramirez. I am currently a behavioral health therapist. I work for Heart-Centered Counseling here in Greeley. Prior to that, I was with North Range Behavioral Health for 12 years. I graduated in 2009 with my bachelor's in psychology, followed by graduate school. I received my master's in clinical counseling in 2013.
Thank you, Adriana. Now I will hand it over to Bryson Kelly, who will be our moderator this afternoon. Bryson?
Good evening and good afternoon, folks. My name is Bryson Kelly. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I will be the moderator for this session. I'm very excited to be with you all and to be able to answer your questions and have some good conversation. I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Recruitment for the University of Northern Colorado Office of Admissions, and I am a almost two-time alum. So I finished my bachelor's degree here at UNC in exercise science in 2015, and I will be graduating with my master's degree in social psychology of sport and physical activity, long title, I know, this December. I'm really excited. I was a student ambassador on campus, worked for a lot of different departments. So I've been with UNC, including my undergraduate work, for a total of 9 years. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first question. And then I will go ahead and call on the panelists in order so we can answer the questions. The first one is, How did your UNC experience help you launch into your career and arrive at your current position? We'll start with Brandon.
Well, when I first arrived at UNC, I got involved with the Center for Human Enrichment on campus, and I was a tutor, an undergraduate student tutor for math classes and business classes, and I just started getting more involved in on campus life, and I was volunteering at the summer migrant school here in Weld County. I started tutoring, volunteer tutoring, and I was doing some classroom stuff. And the Center for Human Enrichment did a really good job of mentoring me and advising me in the direction of going into education and being a high school teacher. And so I believe that the Center for Human Enrichment is still there at UNC. It's a TRIO program. And I had some mentors, Ray Romero, Ernie Andrade, former educators that helped guide me into the field of education. And that was my calling. And I'm indebted to them for their mentorship.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Next, we'll go with Adriana.
Hi. So yeah, my master's program, it's an accredited program. And so with that, we all took the same courses that prepped us into gaining the counseling skills effective for that certain area. Something really effective too was all throughout my undergrad and graduate programs, I was a member of Stryker. And it's, really completely involved. And the really wonderful thing about that is you have a group of people that are completely supportive and encouraging and really encourage you. That really helped me to get where I needed to get. But something, again, going back to the clinical counseling program, the program is just designed to help you really be active, from practicum to internship to supervision, just a really good program.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll go with Samuel.
Hello. I think in a way UNC helped me a lot with just having good experience when it came to employment. After my program, I was lucky enough to get a job in the area that involved my degree. So I worked at UNC for about 7 years as an instructional designer and educational technologist, helping faculty design courses and better use technology in their classroom. So after I finished my second master's degree, my Master of Fine Arts, it definitely helped me stand out a little more as a candidate because I had experience and all of that area when it came to curriculum development.
Thank you, Samuel. We'll go with Elizabeth next.
So I actually started as a graduate assistant in our office for career services when I was going to graduate school. So that really helped me with the funding and that type of thing. And then I hired on full-time afterwards, where I was a supervisor of our undergraduate students and then ultimately supervised our graduate students. And through that, that's really helped me to, over the years, really want to support managers and teams just so that they're able to be happier at work and more productive and really decrease employee turnover and that type of thing. So that's really what my business focuses on. So I certainly didn't think that I was going for my community counseling degree and even marriage and family emphasis to become a career counselor and ultimately a business owner. And again, working with teams, but that's, I think those experiences that I had while going to UNC really helped me to get to where I am today.
Awesome. And I would add with my UNC experience, it's kind of two parts. So my undergraduate experience, really, I had a lot of mentors that were able to get me connected and really kind of have some opportunities to work through internships, multiple jobs. I worked for our enrollment management and student access department. I worked for athletics. I also worked for the Office of Admissions, and those experiences really led into the career that I'm doing right now within the Office of Admissions, and really, really excited to continue that work. And my master's degree has really trained me to, first of all, kind of with my research, I look at student retention and look at how we predict a student's decision to really retain and stay at UNC and stay enrolled, and through things like physical activity and a sense of belonging. And so that training and research has really helped me look to next semester in the research that I can do within my role. And I think UNC provided a lot of those opportunities to really have those mentors that surrounded me, that were able to support me in really constructive ways, and also challenge me, not tell me what I wanted to hear, but also tell me what I really need to hear. And I really enjoyed that experience, and know that to this day, those people are a really big reason why I'm here today. Well, thank you all for that.
If I may add to that real quick, I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
One thing that I forgot to mention too, on top of Stryker, one of the things from Ames to UNC undergrad and graduate were the TRIO program. I was actually pretty involved with the Educational Opportunities Center, and it was their mentoring, it was their support and their encouragement that helped that as well. And UNC is very active with all those programs. Just that was important to include.
Absolutely. Thank you for that addition. And panelists, feel free to interrupt me if you want to add some of those comments as well. Definitely looking forward to hearing from all of you. The next question that we'll cover is, what role do work-based learning experience have on the hiring process? And what resources did you use to connect to those opportunities? With this question, we'll start with Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryson. Yeah, as a career counselor, I often talked with students the importance of internships or even volunteer work in the field, even part-time positions. And even my example that I use with starting out in our office as a graduate student, as a GA, and then ultimately being hired on full-time for a permanent position at UNC, it's definitely one of the things people are able to see who you are as a worker, and that type of thing. And it often can lead to those first opportunities after your education.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, we'll go with Samuel.
I would say that work-based learning experience is as important, and not even more, than the actual curriculum that you go through. Like, because whenever you apply for jobs, no one asks you about the classes that you took. They don't really care too much. So work-based experience, at least for me, at my first degree, I had to look out for those opportunities. Like a lot of the programs, yeah, they do have partnerships with other businesses, but in education, it's very scarce. So you have to find those opportunities yourself. And luckily I did. I was able to find someone that was looking for an internship, which I did. And that's where I ended up working at UNC. So yes, I would say that, like, what role do they have is that the most important role, I would say. If you're not working and going to school at the same time, then your degree, it's not going to have a lot of value whenever you apply for jobs.
And I think I would just add, I totally agree. And I think it's a neat opportunity, because it's definitely a way for people to try things out then too, right? And make sure that it is a good fit for them moving forward, and kind of adapting and changing along the way as well.
Thank you both. That is a perfect transition into our next question. And with this question, we'll start with Brandon. What would you recommend for someone who has a graduate degree, but a little bit less experience as a professional in the working world?
So being a teacher, I got my undergraduate degree and I got a teaching job right away. Math and science jobs are needed right now. And so my first interview, I got a job right away. And So what I did with my master's degree is I started going to school the summer after the first year that I started teaching. And it's the summers only program through the Applied Statistics Department. And I did the summers only program for 3 summers. And as a teacher, every 12 credits that you earn after a bachelor's, they're moving you up in the pay scale. And so I was getting raises every summer because I was completing about 12 credits each summer. And then once you get a master's degree as a teacher, you move up even more in the pay scale. And so what I did was I just continued to go to school, because then I started my PhD program in applied statistics. And so I just kept on going to school. And it was good for pay, obviously, but it ended up helping me with content, of course, because I teach AP statistics, but just being able to read, research, and understand research, and just understand the whole scientific process of making data-driven decisions that I make in the classroom. And so for a teacher, it's a little bit different, because you could start teaching right away with an undergraduate degree, but as a teacher, you need to get a master's degree in order to make a living. Unfortunately, that's kind of still where we are. And so my journey is a little bit different in that I found my career as an undergraduate, and then I just continued just to go to school, and I was, of course, improving myself with education, but I was getting paid more, and it helped my family. And now I'm a 22-year-old teacher with a master's plus 48. And so it makes it worth it. And so, yeah, I don't know if I completely answered the question, but that's my journey.
Thank you so much for sharing, Brandon. Next, we'll go with Adriana.
Yeah, so one thing I'm definitely going to recommend is the place that you internship at, and whether that's going to be like with our internship. I remember the program, it's basically an entire year of working part-time, right, to gain that experience. And so wherever you internshipped at, definitely look to see if there are any open positions within that. Another thing is, especially in the counseling world, you have this very specific idea or passion of maybe a population that you want to work with. Keep in mind that that may not happen always at the beginning. So just be open, be willing to dive into a different population, something different than what you had thought of, because wherever you are in the counseling realm, you're definitely going to gain that experience. And believe me, that experience is going to cross over into what you're eventually wanting to do. Something really important is stay connected with your classmates that you went to school with, because they too have a wealth of information, potential job placement, and always seek supervision. Talk with whomever. Back at UNC, I know that there's a lot of career counselors. Just keep an open mind, and yeah, be willing to explore different areas.
I definitely and completely agree with that. I think, for folks that have that graduate degree and may not have all of that, that wealth of experience, I think being able to reach out to your network, so that includes the BEAR network, the Alumni Association, your faculty as well, and having those conversations where you did your internship, to look for job opportunities. I know within the higher education and student affairs field, really the program that we have here at UNC does an excellent job of getting students connected to different areas within the institution. And that's what I've really enjoyed about kind of the work that we're able to do, is being set up with those mentors. And another thing that I would recommend too is being able to use that network to reach out to professionals in your field and have a conversation with them, whether that's through, a facility facilitated connection with the Alumni Association or your faculty and sit down, grab a cup of coffee, a virtual coffee, to be able to really kind of talk about their experiences and the way that they got into their degree and they got into their field, and having conversations like this. I think at this time, it's a lot of not just, who it's who knows you, and being able to build that network and utilize that network for support. Any other panelists want to be able to add to that? Yeah, Samuel.
Yeah, I actually, one of the best advice that I've gotten is that even if you're not sure, look for the job descriptions. Look for the jobs that you think you might want in a few years and see what they're asking. Because you might want to go to school for something, but like if you look at the job descriptions and all the responsibilities and everything that they're asking for, it might not go in tandem with what you thought it was going to be. And once you know what they ask for, think about, like, if you don't have a lot of experience, think about just transferable skills. So that's always a way that you can sell yourself. It's like, hey, I might not have this exactly what you're asking for, but I do have this other thing that I think connects to what you're looking for. And like that alone, like I feel like a lot of people don't apply for jobs because they think they're unqualified. But they never really stop and question. It's like, well, maybe I am qualified. It's just not exactly what they're asking for. So that was like a very good advice that I received, and it got me a job. So
I love it. Thank you for that addition. And this flows directly into a couple of the next questions. So you all are doing a great job of flowing. So this next one is, how have you built or strengthened your network? And we'll start with Adriana.
So I'm that one where I'm very open, willing to seek information. And so again, I stay connected with some of my college classmates. I definitely, within the field, definitely open to reaching out and just talking with others. Another thing is, keep in mind in your community, especially in my field, mental health, a lot of community programs, Project Connect, this one, for instance, just stay really connected with your community. Put yourself out there, ask for information. If you can, spread the word about somebody else too.
Love it. Thank you so much. Samuel, same question to you.
I think that's a difficult question for me, because as pretty much an immigrant that came here and knew very little people, like, yes, at the beginning, it definitely helped me. Having those connections helped me have a good work-life balance. So from one aspect, building community, it's super beneficial to have a good quality of life. And luckily, a lot of the jobs that and opportunities that I've had, I had to make those connections. Like, I actively seek those connections. And this is something that Adriana mentioned, is that, like, no one is going to bring, like, very rarely they're going to bring you into their circles. Like, if you reach out, and even you mentioned that, like, if you reach out to the experts, they will most likely answer back. But if you just sit and wait for something magical to happen, like, that's when, like, it doesn't really work. And then sometimes, even though you have all the connections in the world, it might not be the fit for your future. So, like, even now, me being in Colorado for a decade, like, after looking for every single opportunity that I, like, even ask all my connections if anything was available, none of the connections worked. Right? Nothing worked in Colorado. So 10 jobs that I applied for, they all got canceled. So what I had to do is like, okay, then I just have to rely on my skills. So having, what I did use though as part of my connection is that, okay, they might not help me get a job, but they will advise me on some of the path, my unknowns of my future. So I reached out to a lot of people. It's like, hey, I am taking this massive adventure. It's like, do you have any advice? Yes. Like, just for this interview, like one of the faculty that also got hired at the university is like, the most important question is, why do you want to pick this university? Okay, that's the question that you have to have answered right from the start. And yes, all of the interviews that I had, that's the first question. It is the most important question. So just being willing to reach out to people, it's a world of difference. Just one small piece of advice can set you apart, like on the good side.
Awesome, thank you. Elizabeth, what about you?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I would recommend is just really, like, I know for me, when I was at UNC, I became very involved and volunteered for things on campus. So that'd be committee work. I also was a member of Professional Administrative Staff Council for many years, and that's our shared governance council. So just really getting to know people on campus. As a business owner, it is even more important that I continue to build my network, just so that people can become aware of what I do and that type of thing. So I go to networking events like speed networking. I've found like-minded people, so female entrepreneurs. I'm a part of a couple of those groups in and around Greeley and Fort Collins. So it's just really, I think it's very important to have a network and kind of continue to always be actively seeking people and that advice and that type of thing. And especially as a business owner, it can be lonely at times as a solopreneur. And so really starting to be able to learn from people that have, they're a couple more years ahead in business than I am, and that type of thing, and just really welcoming that information. And then also being there for people too. So as people are saying, hey, I'm just started up my business during COVID, I'll reach out and say, hey, how's it going? And that type of thing. So I think it's just really, broadening your reach and that type of thing. And I always like to say, because I think networking is such a, I don't know, it's an intimidating word. And if you think of it as building connections, that's really what networking is. So I like to kind of chat with students about that. It's just really building connections and that type of thing.
Awesome, thank you both. And another thing that I would kind of add too is just more of a recent strategy in the virtual world that I've found is when I first got my LinkedIn profile, I'd be adding people that I knew, and then I'd get a request from someone I didn't know. And I'm like, well, I don't really know you. Maybe we have a couple, in common connections. And now I've really just kind of opened up, like I'm willing to be able to add everyone, because it's that perspective of growing the network and growing opportunities and perspectives that you hear from other folks. So that's another strategy that I've found. So thank you both for your perspective on that. And thank you all three for your perspective. The next question that we have is going right along with, what's the best advice you've received from someone as you're entering your chosen industry? I'll go ahead and start this one. And I think some of the best advice I have ever received from individuals and that I pass down to folks that I talk to through the graduate school application process, but also post-degree planning, is you define what success looks like for you. And that is a powerful piece for me because especially in this time of uncertainty, especially as I've been writing my thesis over a pandemic and trying to do research over a pandemic, success is really for me being defined of what am I learning through this entire process. And I think that's one of the most important pieces of advice as I move forward in my career, is knowing that I'm defining what success looks like for me. Nobody else is going to be able to define that for me. So next with that question, we'll go with Adriana.
Hi. Yeah, so in the counseling world, just pretty basic, easy, not pretty basic, not easy, but just some pretty important words that were said to me. Keep an open mind, be willing to explore my own areas of self-growth. I remember one specifically is leave your ego at the door and be willing to be vulnerable. That's just really huge. Again, that just helps you to search within, helps you to definitely be more empathic. And another thing is be willing to take chances. It may not always end the way you would want it to be, but nonetheless, it gives you the experience and that offers areas where you know that you can grow. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Brandon, what about you?
So my first year teaching, someone told me that I need to coach and sponsor a club. And I don't know if it was advice or someone just mandated me. I just assumed that if you were a young teacher, you were the sponsor of a club and you were a coach of a sport. And so I started coaching basketball. I ended up being a basketball coach here at Greeley West for 20 years. I recently resigned. The allies and the connections that I've created through coaching have really just improved my life so much. And I was able to coach my own boys. My boys have gone to school here at Greeley West. I've had the privilege of coaching them. I've coached players of parents that I've coached. And then also I sponsored LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens. I was the LULAC sponsor for probably about 10, 12 years. And again, you know, the connections that I've made been tremendous. Like, for example, Chris Garcia, he works for UNC, and he's the one that connected me with the Alumni Association and helped me get on this panel. Chris Garcia was the LULAC president when he was a senior in high school. And so I'm connected well with Greeley and now professionals, because I've either taught them math in my classroom, or I've coached them in basketball, or they were in LULAC. And so, you know, it's being involved as a teacher to me was just almost a necessity. And I just thought that all teachers coach and sponsor a club. And so, you know, I look at myself, I look at teachers as part of the working class. I look at my job as I'm an essential worker, and I'm here in the classroom during these times. And, you know, I feel like I'm a much needed component of our community. And so, you know, the advice of being involved is really improved my life tremendously.
Thank you so much for sharing, Brandon. So the next question we'll ask is one specifically that we mentioned within the Q&A is, how has having a graduate degree helped you with your career? And we can go ahead, whoever wants to take that question, that's directly from one of our attendees. Yep, let's go with Samuel.
I can go first. For example, in my area, if I don't have a graduate degree, I can't really teach. So as if you ever wondering if you want to go into academia, as in most of the academia, they require either you to have a terminal degree of some sort. So in the arts, you need to have an MFA. Like if you don't have an MFA, it's just a requirement. Like it might be like a 2-year MFA, but still, like that little paper, it's a necessity if you want to move forward. Now, that doesn't mean that you just have to take it because you have to take it. No, it's like the MFA program, it is a huge endeavor. So graduate degrees shape you for a long time in your future, I would say. Like you shouldn't go to a graduate degree just because that's the next step. It's like, this should be a very conscious decision that your graduate degree will dictate a good chunk of your life. Because if you already went to college, if you have any college debt, and then you still want to go to grad school, and then you're gonna go more into debt, or fortunately, if you want to go to grad school, go to a grad school that has a GTA program. That would be like the best way to go to grad school. Like people pay you to study. So it's gonna be rough for a few years, but being the GTA is by far like the best way to do your program. So I hope that gave some sort of, it made some sense.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. Those graduate teaching assistantships are definitely a good way and one of the best ways to get your degree paid for. Plus, you get a lot of that experience. Any other panelists want to address kind of what their graduate degree has done for their career?
Yes, I do. So in the counseling realm, they definitely push for licensure, and the program, at the clinical counseling program at UNC, I'm not sure what it's referred to now. I know it changes from time to time, such like Elizabeth, it was a different, right? Yeah. But anyhow, so because it is K-CREP accredited, when it comes time to licensure, all you're basically required to do is to have the 2 years postmasters with supervision time. But again, because our program is accredited, it makes that licensing process a lot more easier. And believe me, when it comes to being a therapist, you definitely want to shoot to become licensed. You're not going to be able to get that unless you have your master's degree. Plus, it gives a little bit more confidence knowing that our program, again, it has specific courses geared towards the being in the counseling field. If I were to move to the East Coast or something, again, knowing that I came from an accredited program, it would make licensure a lot easier to wherever state I'm going as well.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I do want to send a reminder to the attendees. You can keep sending some questions through the Q&A. I'll address another question from the Q&A directly. And I think this may be for Samuel and Brandon. What is the salary range for an entry-level job for teaching when you have a graduate degree? Would you both talk about your different experiences within that?
So teaching without a graduate degree is pretty tough. And unfortunately, the teaching profession with an undergraduate, in terms of a salary, I don't even want to talk about it. So how about we move to a master's degree? So I was probably getting a $2,000 raise every year for every 12 credits beyond a bachelor's degree. So I was still teaching. I was doing my master's program in the summer, and every 12 credits every summer I was getting a raise. And then you jump big time to a master's degree, and then I continued to go to school. Right now, after 20 years of teaching, with a master's degree plus more, I'm making about $70,000, and that's nothing to write home about. However, the quality of living, and I'm working 10 months a year. I'm able to spend the summers with my family and my boys. I'm still raising boys. I have 2 boys and 2 stepsons. My oldest is a freshman at UNC. And so I've had a tremendous life of just growing up with my boys, seeing my boys grow up and coach them in the summer. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm part of the working class, but I'm comfortable, and I have good benefits, and I'm going to retire when I'm 55 years old. I'm going to retire when I'm 55 and start my second career.
I can follow up on that. I guess, I don't know much about salaries, but entry, I guess it really depends on the place too. Like, I remember really well when I was looking for jobs, even last year. A lot of the institutions in Colorado, they pay maybe between 35 and 45,000 as a salary, as an entry salary. So if you go to bigger cities and bigger universities, that might look like if you want to teach at CU Boulder, like CU Boulder, they do have like a bare minimum that they do pay their faculty. So of course, the higher the rank, the higher the value that they pay. Like, and one of the nice things about being having a tenure track job is that tenure track jobs are transferable to other universities. So once you're granted tenure, if you apply to other universities, a lot of the times that tenure is respected. So it's like, if you're making good money and then you want to go to another place, you'll still make either the same amount of money or more money depending on the university. So, but I would say that even though, yes, of course, salary is important to know, what I'm learning is that the place also makes a big difference. Like right now, I moved to a different city in the middle of Wisconsin, and it's a very small town, and I don't know a lot of people, but yes, housing is very cheap. It's like you can buy a house here probably less than half of the price of one in Colorado, anywhere. So of course, even if you're making $35,000 to $40,000, paying a margin that is like what you would pay for a room, it does have an impact on it. So, but if you want to go to a place that they pay you $60,000 and your mortgage is $4,000 a month, then it just doesn't make sense. Yes. So, should I answer Chris's the question?
Yeah, we can go ahead and lead into that question.
Okay.
So, yep, go ahead.
I mean, I answered this question, but yes, like you need a graduate degree to get into this field. Like if you don't have it's every single job requires an MFA. Like you might not have a lot of experience, but if you don't have an MFA, or are on track of getting one, then you won't get hired. Like you won't make it to the next, even to any of the phone interviews.
Thank you so much for that. Any other panelists, talk about your experience if it's necessary to have a graduate degree to get into your field?
I can kind of speak to this. I definitely, for like the career counseling position at UNC, it was certainly a requirement to have a master's degree. And I think even as maybe not to be a business owner necessarily, and yet I definitely value my education and my master's degree, and I think it's definitely something that I'm leveraging as a business owner and who I'm working with. So the fact that I have the helping skills and the active listening skills when I'm working with teams or managers, able to really support them, and even dealing with like conflict if they're seeking consulting due to conflict in the workplace and that type of thing. So there are certainly consultants out there that don't have a master's degree. I do find that for me though, I think it certainly has helped.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep going with the next question. We'll start with Samuel on this one. What is the most rewarding aspect of your current position?
I don't know yet. I think it's too early to tell. Like, especially because I teach 4 classes. I'm in a teaching institution. So for those of you that don't know what that means, like universities are rated into different areas. So teaching institutions have a higher teaching load and research institutions have less of a teaching load. So, so right now for me, like I think the most gratifying part of my job right now is that like I mentioned, I'm a geek and I love to learn. Like I teach, and because I teach at home online, I only have to go to school for one class, which is a hybrid class. I just like spend all day like learning. Like because I'm in charge of having to rebuild the entire program. Like I am literally spending, I don't know, between 20 to 40 hours a week just doing different workshops, like watching a ton of YouTube videos, like making notes about those YouTube videos. How can I use the YouTube videos in my classroom? Like to me personally, that's very rewarding. So I don't know if anybody really enjoys working that much, but sadly I do.
Love it. Elizabeth, what about you? What's the most rewarding aspect of your job?
Yeah, I was excited about this question. So definitely being a business owner, probably the most rewarding is that flexibility and in my schedule and being able to schedule my day and my work. And so I really love that. I have an adaptability strength. So being able to be flexible, I kind of joke that, you know, I am not a fan of 8 a.m. So I don't have to be anywhere if I don't want to be at 8 a.m. I can start my day later. So I definitely have enjoyed that part of entrepreneurship and getting out of more of like a traditional work space. And also being able to work really from anywhere, even before COVID hit.
Thank you for that. I would add, I think for my role as an assistant director of recruitment and the time that I've spent working with graduate students is the students. I think one of my favorite parts about my job is when I sit down with the students who's an undergrad at UNC and graduate school was never really an idea in their head. And they didn't think that they were able to go to graduate school, and that single moment where their eyes light up and they realize that graduate school is an option for them and that they have the supports to be able to get there. That's what, I mean, even now, just giving me chills. I love being able to have those conversations and work with a lot of our students here at UNC. And that's what keeps me coming back. I was told as a student, and I say this a lot in a lot of spaces, but I was told as a student worker from someone who was mentoring me, he said, "Bryson, I have a job because of you." And that's a perspective that I've kept throughout my work, is knowing that I'm here to serve our students and I have a job because of them. And they're really the biggest reason why I do the work that I do. Any others want to add to that of what's the most rewarding for their work? We can go ahead and get to the next question. Thank you all for that. So this one is, what can I do to get an internship? What are some other good places to start to get your foot in the door? I know we touched briefly on this, but does anyone want to be able to take that question on internships? Yeah, Samuel.
I can go ahead and start. Initiative. Like I don't think there's too much of a secret sauce other than initiative. Like even if there's no internship, like you kind of make them your own. So this is you have to be very critical about your situation. Like if your program is not working the way that you want to, then what will you do for it to work the way that you want, and then make that happen? Like can you start a student organization? Okay. Is this something that is within your reach of doing an external project just on your own? Like a lot of these things, the initiative is I mean, I just personally think that initiative is a huge component that employers are looking for the most.
Awesome, thank you. Adriana, would you like to address this?
Yeah, in terms of internships, so in counseling, you can get onto the very many places that do, that do hire therapists, whether if it's your community mental health, if it's heart-centered, if it's the hospitals, whatever, they will specifically list that they are hiring for interns. Another thing too, and my program, I was there 7 years ago, but over 7 years ago, but they also too, they have like a list of places that they could potentially seek internships at. And again, word of mouth, use, people already in the field. Talk with people that are currently somewhere. Hey, are they currently accepting interns? Yeah, just put yourself out there and really, really be open to applying. And if you don't get it, that's okay. Keep applying elsewhere and put in multiple applications. Just don't wait for that one.
Awesome, thank you. And I can definitely confirm that, internships are definitely a requirement still in the clinical mental health counseling program in a lot of our graduate programs at UNC. And so I would absolutely add to that too, reaching out to your advisor and starting that conversation of here's some areas that I want to work in, and being proactive about that outreach is definitely a good spot to be able to be in and be able to advocate for yourself. All righty, another question that we have is, we'll go around and do this for each panelist as we're kind of coming up on time, and also attendees, if you have any other questions too, we can feel free to use the Q&A. But this question that we have is, can you provide a final word of advice for UNC Bears that are currently seeking a position after they're completing their graduate program? And we'll go ahead and start with Brandon.
For teachers, first of all, yeah, I would say that I'm going to go ahead and brag a little bit that I probably have the most rewarding job out of all of us. And I've been in the community for 22 years teaching, and now I'm teaching kids that I've taught. And so I'm seeing the second generation of students that I've taught, and I can't express in words just how rewarding my job is and how important it is. Without the mentorship that I received at UNC, and really the advice was for me just to get involved in the community. There's just so many different areas that I got involved with: coaching sports, sponsoring LULAC, teaching, of course, raising kids and volunteering for my kids' sports teams, just being involved in the community and just saying yes a lot around here. And I know that I've been overstretched, and sometimes I feel like I have too much on my plate, but it's shaped me and it's molded me into the person that I am now. And if I wasn't that LULAC sponsor for 10, 12 years, I definitely wouldn't have met all these people in the community like Chris Garcia and teachers that are in the district. And so I know it's kind of cliche and it sounds kind of cheesy, but just, getting involved. And, I was a volunteer teacher for the summer migrant school for 4 summers. And man, the reward, the satisfaction that I got from doing that kind of stuff was amazing. So yes, thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Elizabeth, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brandon, and I would say also just being open and to different types of either companies or positions. So again, I really didn't think I was, completing my counseling degree to go into higher education as a career counselor and then ultimately owning my own business. And yet I was open to those opportunities, and certainly it has been a great career path for me. So again, just, being open to different companies, different states, as well as, maybe a different position than what you thought starting graduate school.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. I'll go ahead too and just add that really one of the the things that I would recommend is, we've mentioned it before, being able to use your Bear network and reach out to, I know some of our information is going to be shared. I'm happy to have more conversations too. I love being able to have a virtual cup of coffee and be able to have some good conversation and connect with folks. And kind of leading into what Elizabeth had mentioned too, is that as we know from career is not a straight line. And knowing that there's all of these different adjacent possibilities that we call it, and there's going to be adding those different skill sets. And so I didn't think that I was going to be coming from being a tour guide at UNC into working in the Office of Admissions and still be able to use my background in physical activity and exercise science. And now through my thesis, I was able to find that perfect match. And so the way I did that was ask people and talk to people, hey, what about this idea? And really just have those people that you know that can support you and be able to challenge you, surround you. And I think being able to use those individuals is one of the best things that I have tried to do as I have gotten to this point in my career, and will continue to keep doing, and always learning to be able to do that. Adriana, what about you?
Yes, so just really be self-aware of the self-growth and the confidence. And you made it through grad school, gosh darn it, you made it through that, right? So take that confidence, be willing to explore different areas within the field of your area of study. Keep an open mind, and always just have the courage to at least apply. And if not, then just get right back into it. Another thing is, I know we talked about this before, but always network with others, stay in contact with people. Best wishes.
Great. Yep. Samuel, what about you?
I don't know. Like, I think it's like, it just really depends on a lot of situations. Like, wow. I think everybody has like very different experiences, and I would say, like, I guess you can be selective. Like, this is something that a lot of the people don't really tell you. Like, especially these, like, look for internships, work for free, like, be willing to do all this work, and it's like, maybe not. Like, there might be a lot of opportunities that are willing to pay you for what you're worth and for your job. Like, you can definitely look for things that will have a lot of value. And I guess that for me is exactly what I was gearing towards do. Like, I was very selective of the things that I knew I needed to do. And like the biggest thing, I think what got me the job was, like, even though I was a GTA, like, I did not have to redesign the curriculum, but I still offered, right? I did not have to join and create a student organization, but I still did, right? It's like, someone had mentioned to me, like, regardless of whether you work in the academia or if you go and work in your own in the private field, like, those are the things that will get you jobs, because they want to see, once again, the initiative. Like, if you're just following that little path, it's like you and hundreds, if not thousands of others are doing the same thing, is like, the best way to be seen is to have a voice. So I would say that, I mean, at least for me, that's what had the most value, and like, it paid off in a way, because now everything that I did before, like, I'm able to do it here, and I can show that to students. So even here that I've been here a few months, like, I am part of the student organization that was very similar to the one that I created. So I'm helping them and I'm coaching them build that organization. And it's like, oh my God, nobody really told us anything. Is like, well, like, let me save you some time. So I hope that made sense.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you, panelists, too. It was a pleasure spending a couple, or I guess an hour with you all, just being able to hear from you all. And I will then leave it to Norma to be able to close us out. And thank you, attendees, for being here as well.
Thank you, Bryson, and thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today, and for people watching, thank you for spending this hour with us. Panelists, thank you for sharing such great industry insight with us. It was an honor hosting you today. I look forward to seeing everybody on here join us for future career panels that we're hosting this fall. If you want to see a detailed list of the upcoming events, please go to our website, www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. Thank you all so much for joining us, both panelists and attendees. See you all soon, and go Bears.
Go Bears. Have a good one, everyone.